Time for MacBreak Weekly. Alex and Andy and I are going to talk about the iPad 2. We've got ours and got a review for you, plus the latest on the new MacBook Pros. I'll give you a hint. Lots of Fs. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 238, recorded March 15, 2011. Faster with a camera. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by GoToMeeting, the affordable way to meet with clients and colleagues. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/MacBreak. And by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. And by FreshBooks, the easy online invoicing service that gets you paid quickly and makes you look more professional. Get started with a free package at freshbooks.com. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show, the post-PC show that covers iPhone and iPad. And now... No, I guess we might have some Mac news. I don't know. Seems unlikely. Here are our panelists today. Quick, find some Mac news. Mr. Alex Lindsay from the Pixel Core.
I'm here prepared, fully prepared here. I have my iPhone, my iPad,
You do have a Mac in front of you.
I do have a Mac.
Yeah.
I almost didn't bring it.
I bought the new Mac. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So I have a new Mac.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really like it. Also with us from his earthquake impregnable lair. Mostly because there are no earthquakes there. Andy Ihnatko in Blaston. There aren't any earthquakes, are there?
Actually, there are, but they're so no. Not when you talk about what's going on elsewhere in the world. No, we don't.
Nothing like that. Andy works for the Chicago Sun-Times, where he's currently writing his review for the iPad 2. He's also at the CWOB.com. And actually, we started the show before the show in the pre-show talking, of course, about the big story. And sometimes I even feel really guilty when there's a story like this, horror in Japan, talking about gadgets in any way, shape, or form, because it seems so, I don't know, unimportant, so trivial compared to the serious stuff going on. So we did talk a little bit about that at the beginning. We will talk, actually, there's a very interesting article Kevin Rose published on his blog about how the Apple Store responded in Tokyo to the earthquake. But one thing, before we get deep into the weeds on the iPad 2, because we all three of us, I see, have one. Andy's got one over his shoulder. I don't know how he's doing that. That's magical and revolutionary.
Apple sent me the 17-inch iPad.
You bastard.
They didn't send you one?
You bastard. But also, we can talk about the new Macs, because I have the new MacBook Pro, so we'll talk about those. And lots more news. But we started, and I wanted to kind of repeat it on the show, talking about the earthquake. And there are a number of stories relevant to the Japanese earthquake and our beat. You can, for instance, donate to Japan earthquake relief via iTunes, which I think is pretty cool. And Apple will not take 30% of the revenue. All of it goes. But I also want to point people to one of the things that is going on right now that's of great concern is the state of the nuclear reactors in Japan, some of which are quite old, 4 decades old, and some concern about another Chernobyl or another 3 Mile Island. There is a really good resource that I trust down the road from you, Andy. It's called the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Heard of it?
Yep, heard of it. I think they're pretty good. And
yeah, they got a school. I think they do. Is it engineering?
Engineering. They have a nuclear science and engineering department and a blog that has been doing a fantastic job covering the meltdowns or whatever's going on, the explosions at the units. And I would point you to this. It's easy to find. It's mitnse.com. mitnse.com. That's the short URL. Start, though, kind of deep down in it, there is, if you go farther back in time, there was a post on March 13th describing how these plants were constructed, how they work, and I have to say, almost every mainstream report I've seen has some significant factual errors compared to this report, which I think is probably factually much more accurate. And then you can go back up in time and read the most recent reports. And as the story develops, they are posting on it. For instance, today they posted an explanation of hydrogen explosions at units 1 and 3. You'll understand much better what's going on, what the actual risks are, as opposed to the kind of sensationalistic risks that some of the media is reporting and so forth. So that's a good place to start if you're worried about that. It is going to, right now, the RAM factories and the NAND factories are shut down. There's a lot of speculation going on about, a price speculation going on in RAM and NAND flash. The prices have jacked up immediately. But it's not immediately clear that those prices are going to go up. The plants, most of the plants are not in the affected area. They're currently shut down, but they will be able to go back online.
I mean, one of the things is it doesn't look like there's a lot of damage to the actual plants, but one of the issues is that a lot of these plants are extremely energy intensive, and they need solid power all the time because they're dealing with heat-based processes, and so they can't. And right now they're having rolling power cuts,
right?
And so they just can't turn them back on until that sorts itself out. And with the problems that we're seeing with the power infrastructure in Japan right now, it's unclear when that will happen.
Yeah.
But that's what people speculate on a guess.
Oh yeah,
they're gambling.
It's like oil prices. Yeah, it's totally based on the future, not on the present.
Right.
But it does look like it could be bad for RAM prices and flash prices. And of course, we rely heavily on flash because our iPads and our iPods are all flash based. SSDs, yeah. Those factories are not in the Sendai area, but there are silicon wafer fabs there. So some silicon chips are made in the Sendai area.
I think it's 60%.
Yeah, so that's an issue. Those are the wafers that are then used by other plants to make the processors and so forth. So nothing to say except that be aware, right? There could be some shortages. There's certainly going to be some shortages in things like electric vehicles.
Yeah, but the people I talked to a few days ago, it wasn't a Q&A, it was just like a conversation about this sort of stuff. Were telling me that it would be something you would feel about 2 or 3 years down the road,
that
as
far.
opposed to something
Wow.
you're. Well, because there's so much planning happens so far in advance. So many companies stockpile what they need, and they also make sure that they have production ramped up to a level where they can sort of buffer that sort of stuff. The consenting opinion amongst these 2 or 3 people were that if there is any sort of a negative knock-on effect for consumers, it's going to be financial planners who decide that we had better what if this doesn't get fixed? What if people are right now we're being advised that there is not going to be a big problem with this, but what if we're wrong? We had better make sure that we buffer in some profits this year to make sure that we can suffer next year or the year after in case these things happen. We've already sort of seen that in the stock market where they don't understand what parts of the industry have been affected, who the suppliers are, what they're supplying to. All they know is earthquakes are extremely bad and disruptive, and that basically turns everybody into a very, very topsy-turvy sort of investor. So
Right.
a lot of money is moving based on just fear and panic, and that's usually the worst part.
Right.
Beyond the human toll, that's often compounds an already terrible situation.
Right. Well, just something to be aware of. I mean, 2 years from now, we can look back and say, "Oh, yeah, that's why the iPad is $100 more," or perhaps not. It could happen.
Well, in some ways, I think that given that this is a Mac show, Apple may be in a good position related to this because I think they've bought a lot of this up.
Yep.
So they have
stockpiled.
they have probably a larger supply of these components than anyone else in the world.
Right. Right. Well, they're selling them fast. We'll talk about that in just a second. But continuing with the earthquake story for a little bit longer, I just wanted to point to Kevin Rose's blog where he reprints a letter. It says, "This email is from a friend of mine that works for Apple in Japan."
I actually know him. I'm Alex L.
Dear Alex L. So you also got this email. Yeah, he mentions Twim in here and Twit.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
We won't mention his name, I guess. Name redacted.
Oh, okay.
To protect his, I don't know. Well, that's what Kevin did. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I got the same email, and he was very, very generous with information. He just didn't want to be identified.
Yeah, that's fine. He works at one of the Apple stores in Japan. He says, "The earthquake hit while I was working in one of their stores as the entire building swayed. The staff calmly led people from the top 5 floors down to the first floor and under the ridiculously strong wooden tables. We've all seen those that hold the display computers.
I'm going to guess this is at the Ginza. I'm going to guess that there's a 5-story high store in Ginza.
That must be it then, in Tokyo.
And, in Tokyo. It's the coolest. I mean, it's the most amazing Apple store I've ever seen.
This is what's interesting. 7 hours and 118 aftershocks later, the store was still open. That's because with phone and train lines down, taxi stops, and millions of people stuck in the Tokyo shopping district scared, no access to television. Hundreds of people were swarming into the Apple stores to watch the news on Ustream and to contact their families via Twitter, Facebook, and email. The young did it on their mobile devices while the old clustered around the Macs. There were even some Android users there. He adds there are almost no free Wi-Fi spots in Japan besides the Apple store, so even Android users often come to the stores to borrow the Wi-Fi. He says it's kind of like in the disaster movies, how people gathered around the electronics stores to watch the TV in the windows.
I love that part.
Yeah. He says in the digital age, that's what the Tokyo Apple stores became. Staff brought out surge protectors and extension cords with tens of iOS device adapters so people could charge their phones and iPads and contact their loved ones. Even after we finally had to close at 10 p.m., crowds of people huddled in front of the store to use the Wi-Fi into the night. It was still the only way to get access to the outside world. He says, I mention this not because I'm a fanboy or an Apple employee, but because I'm genuinely proud of the Apple Japan staff and their willingness to stay open to help people that day. Also impressed with the way Apple's products, and yes, Google's, Twitter's, and Facebook's helped them that day, even after we had to close. Many of the staff stayed outside the store, fixing iPhones and teaching people how to contact family or stay informed via Wi-Fi. Isn't that amazing? And now, he also talks a little bit more about how, because of the trains down, people in Tokyo stranded in the city, hotels booked, the roads jammed, people were actually sleeping in the Apple stores. Apple told all of their staff, retail and corporate, they could go sleep at the Apple stores. The senior managers had, unbeknownst to us, gone out to stock on food and drinks after the first quake hit. They kind of knew this might be crucial. I don't know if you've seen the pictures in Tokyo of the supermarket shelves just empty, cleared. So people are actually sheltering at the Apple stores. So that's really a fantastic story.
Isn't it great that companies can, a company, especially one that we all are already like so much, can just use common sense in these things where this is not a normal situation. We can help so many people just by simply saying, if you work for us, by all means sleep here. Yes, we will take care of you. If you're people off the street, if you need, it wasn't just the Wi-Fi. They had every single charger that they could find plugged in and ready to go, so that if you're cut off, if you can't get home, and you're down to your last 10 minutes worth of life on your battery, come into the Apple store. They have chargers, plug in, top off your batteries. They also were telling people, according to the email, they're also telling their employees that if you feel as though you need to get home, we will cover all, and you think you can do so safely, we will cover any expense you have to suffer in order to get home. Considering that in some cases this was a 10-hour walk, and there might have been a case where they might need to find a hotel, any hotel. The email was actually even said that they're very clear. If all you can find is a luxury hotel, that's the only room that's available, and you need to stay there overnight, stay there, get the receipt. We will compensate you for the expenses in getting to your loved ones. Sure. That is just stellar relationship with your employees and your community. It
says executives from Cupertino and London FaceTimed with us, letting us know not to worry. They supported us, and they would write off on all of it. Yep. And they told him personally, my manager called to let me know that Apple will support any decision I make regarding leaving the country or the area, and that a job will still be waiting for me if I decide to come back. So that's pretty cool. So kudos to Apple for handling that right. And for all we know, I mean, when these kinds of things happen, I have to say people tend to step forward and act well. There are always some bad actors, but most people tend to step forward and act well, and I'm pleased to see that Apple's doing that, but I imagine other corporations are doing the same thing. I would hope other corporations are doing the same thing.
And I think by nature, I think a lot of them aren't. They just, that's what they're doing.
That's what you do.
That's what you do. You try to figure it out, case by case basis.
That's what you do. You stand up for your employees. You take care of them. You do what you have to do, and you bite the bullet. And of course, there'll be huge losses all across the board. Toyota said they're going to ship 40,000 fewer cars this year because of this. I mean, just huge loss. I can only imagine not the economic loss, of course, but then the loss of life and family, and just a huge tragedy. Anything more that we want to say? I would like to put together. We're going to try to put together a special later today that maybe we can talk a little bit more. Maybe get Dr. Kiki and some of her nuclear experts talk a little bit more about what's actually going on, or what we think is going on in Japan with those nuclear power plants. But we'll leave it at that. And certainly our prayers go out to everybody in Japan. We have many listeners in Japan. If you're listening, we're hanging on every news report and wishing for the best for you. And of course, I'm contributing to the Red Cross. I hope everybody is. I just want to pledge $100 a day as long as needed to, on behalf of the Twit family, to make sure that they get the resources they need. They really step in at a time like this. And what we already know from Haiti, from New Zealand, from Chile, is that the Red Cross is vital to people in times like this. So I think that's a good place to go. Be very careful. There are scammers out there. I can't, it's hard to believe anybody would have the lack of decency to scam on us in a situation like this. But if you go to redcross.org, you know you're contributing to the right people. And as I said, iTunes also makes it possible. Very easy to do so.
It's about as easy as it gets.
Yeah, that might be the way to do it. All right, enough. We've said it, and I wanted to start with that just because I think that is more important than anything we could possibly say about iPad 2. But we do want to talk about iPad 2. Well, all three of us have them. The two of you have tested the HDMI out. I'm very interested to hear what happens with that. That's exciting. Andy, just one question. Did you have one last week?
Apple unusually put me on a 2-week embargo. I don't know why the other reviewers decided to break their embargo a week ahead of time, but I made a promise.
Everybody reviewed it last week before it came out. You are still working on your review.
Actually, truth be told, no, I didn't get early hardware at this time.
Good. Not oh good, oh bad.
No.
I hope it's not your association with us, because Gruber got seriously. All the fanboys, Gruber got one, MG Siegler got one, all the Apple fanboys got one. You should have gotten one.
I was thinking about writing a blog post on. Maybe I definitely should now. Honestly, I could come up with a list of exactly four people in publications who absolutely must get advanced hardware from Apple in all situations. And if any one of these four specific people in publications did not get advanced hardware, I would say they did something wrong, or there's some sort of weirdness within that relationship that caused that to change. Everybody else beyond that, myself included, it comes down to how many units does Apple want to allocate, and what do they hope to achieve with that. So
you are so fair. You're so fair.
It's not an entitlement. I did not. Every time that Apple comes out with something brand new, there's a chance I'll get it early. There's a chance I'll get it if I don't get it early, I'll almost certainly get it on the day of release.
Right.
But nonetheless, I don't count on getting stuff on the first day of release.
I used to, when I worked at Tech TV, I would take editorial loans. When I worked in radio, I would take editorial loans from Apple. I always had a great relationship with them, and they were always very forthcoming and not ahead of time usually. And this was in the pre-secrecy, super secrecy days. And now I can afford to, and I don't, in fact, take it. So I've never asked for an editorial loan or an advanced loan. But I presume the four you're talking about are New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and Macworld.
I won't comment.
Okay, but there are.
I'm sure that you named several that would be on.
Yeah, because it would be Mossberg, Pogue, Snell,
Ed Baig.
Oh, right. So those would be the
USA Today. But I have to point out that as many people listen to this show every week as subscribe to Macworld magazine. I'm sure your Chicago Sun-Times reviews are read by at least as many people as those other journals.
Not that we're bitter.
I'm not bitter. In fact, I don't want it. I'm not asking for it. But I have to say, it's a little weird when people like John Gruber and MG Siegler get advanced units, and Andy Ihnatko does not.
It's not weird at all. Again,
okay.
You'd have to ask.
You're a bigger man than I.
You'd have to ask the people at Apple what their goals were. It's perfectly okay if that's not if I'm not part of their goals.
Well, I know what their goals are. You see the fanboys.
No, I'm not going to comment on that. The only thing that I would want to say before gracefully backing out of this discussion is that it's great if I get hardware early. I love getting hardware early, but I've never really wanted to be the guy who has the very first review. I want to have the one that everybody wants to read.
The good review.
So
I agree with you.
That's why. I got mine on Friday. I had a draft ready to go on Sunday night because I thought, okay, well, I missed the Wednesday, but I'll get the Monday traffic. But I read it over and I realized that I don't really got it. I gotta spend like at least 4 or 5 days just intensively playing around with it before I feel as though I'll be able to really get it. And I basically figured out a whole bunch of stuff with this that I didn't get before. So there's really no need to.
You're a good man, Andy. You're a bigger man than I.
That I will defend. Good statement. Show title. We got a show title. You're a good man, Andy Ihnatko.
You're a bigger man than I am, Charlie Brown. We're going to take a break and come back. We will get Andy's. Is it fair to say your review or still first look at the iPad 2?
Oh, no, review. That's good. I'm finishing up tonight, shooting some more videos. It'll be in my editor's hands tomorrow and will be online probably Wednesday or Thursday, and in the print edition on Thursday.
I will give you my first look because I got one on Friday, but I've only had a few days to play with it, and we'll get a first look or review from Alex as well.
I have a very short review. I'll do it afterwards.
I actually have a short review.
I have the Twitter review.
Okay, 140 characters from Alex, and we'll leave it at that. Hey, before we do go on, and there's still lots more to talk about, and I also would like to review the new MacBook Pro because I did get the 15-inch.
So bad.
You know how I justified it? Of course, I wanted one, but I bought one 9 months ago. I bought the i7 when it first came out, and I wanted the Sandy Bridge. But I have a new employee who also said, I want an i7, and I said, I just conveniently didn't, oh, you meant last year's i7, right? So he's going to get my old one, and that I still had to buy one, in other words. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So why shouldn't the newest one go to me?
I get all of them, and then that's definitely how that works for me. I get a new one like every 6 months.
I will. No, I can't. I can't afford that. That's ridiculous. $2,500. But anyway, for $2,500,
everybody else in the company.
I got the SSD. I got 8 gigs of RAM. And I think I got the 2.33 gigahertz i7.
Did you see the LaCie drive, the little big drive?
I can't wait. I can't wait to get that.
700 megabytes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But I will give you my Twitter review of that.
Okay.
There's a lot of Fs, in there. It's an A+, but I give it an F, as in effing fantastic. But that's.
You see what you did? You see what Leo did there? He did the turnaround.
I timed it around.
We were going down, and then suddenly he just pulled the stick up and
effing fantastic. But first, my friends, time to talk about our friends at Citrix. It was great to see the Citrix folks out at our live event on Sunday at Momo's in Austin. What a great time we had. And hello to everybody, by the way, who was out there. What a party that was. Citrix announced its new Go to My PC for the iPad, which allows you to remotely access. It's so weird to see a Windows computer on your iPad or a Mac on your iPad, but it works so well. It's so cool. And, of course, they've had Go to Meeting for the iPad for some time. They support the iPad because they see, they're into the idea of kind of making it easy for you to get your work done on the most portable hardware out there. Go to Meeting is incredible. We all have business travels. We all need to meet with clients and colleagues, but business travel is so expensive. American Express says, and they should know because it's mostly charged on their cards, the average business trip is $1,000. One trip.
I wish mine were
$1,000.
Where are you staying?
Yeah. When you add up hotel, airfare, and food, that gets you to Muncie and back. I don't know.
We were just sitting in a class with Go to Meeting on Saturday on Matt's moving. But we had people from all over the world.
And you use Go to Meeting to give classes.
Yeah.
Or
and
Go to Webinar.
We use Go to Webinar, which is the bigger version of Go. So we had 35 people, which is a little bit bigger than Go to Meeting. But we had all people. I'm sitting in Petaluma. The person who's actually hosting it was in London. I mean, people from all over the world, watching his screen. It's crystal clear. It's great audio. People are able to, ask questions. Ugh, I don't know. It's revolutionary.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I want you to try it. $49 a month. All the meetings you want. There's no clock running. There's no limit in the number of meetings. It's basically unlimited use for $49 a month. And by the way, $49 is what is that? 1/20th of the cost of a business trip. Just pointing that out. One business trip. And by the way, you get with that free voice conferencing, voice over IP, and phone teleconferencing built in. So we use GoToMeeting. If we're not going to show something, we just use GoToMeeting to set up the teleconferences because then you've got the capability you don't have to fire it up, but if you want to show them something, there it is.
And you can have people on VoIP or you can have them calling in, so they can have a call in. So if it's not working, if they don't have the VoIP access, they can do that if they're driving in the car. So you can have this kind of very heterogeneous mix of people that are all able to do whatever they need to do.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
And on the iPad, You use the VoIP, and you got the speakers, and the thing. It's amazing. Sales presentations, product demos, collaboration. Try it free for 30 days. Do get that iPad app. It's in the App Store. And then go to gotomeeting.com/MacBreak and get the 30-day trial. And you've got a month playing with GoToMeeting. If you're just meeting with yourself, it's kind of fun. GoToMeeting. Well, it's not as much. Well, it's actually maybe more fun. GoToMeeting. Meet with your girlfriend. GoToMeeting. I'd like to have a meeting with you.
I have a business proposal for you.
Proposal I'd like to make. GoToMeeting. Do you think anybody's ever proposed marriage on GoToMeeting? I wouldn't be surprised.
That is a marriage that's going to work great.
You could have,
if she says yes. If she says yes, you know that she's passed the test.
I'd like to do make a keynote presentation of 15 reasons why you should marry me, and then you go through it. I'd like to make a presentation for you, and then that'd be so romantic.
Yes. In a geeky sort of crazy way.
I got a new product for Citrix. GoToWedding.com. Brilliant! But until they have that, GoToMeeting.com/MacBreak. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. All right, Andy, you are thorough. You are a professional, trained journalist. You know how to take something like the new iPad 2, how to hold it in your hands, how to you're not like John C. Dvorak who looks at the box and reviews it. You actually take it out of the box and review it.
Well, it's that small. There's those little details that will really set the bar.
He goes the extra mile. He actually.
Sometimes I even charge it before I try it.
Well,
that's
actually,
just crazy.
One thing I should point out is that it comes almost fully charged, which is really a nice thing. So you don't. But the other thing I'd like to point out, I got mine. Eileen waited in line at the pop-up store in Austin. They had which was really cool. Only sold iPads, and she brought it to me. I was so excited. It was at the Citrix breakfast, actually. I turned it on, and it said, connect to iTunes. And I thought, oh, I can't use it till I get back to my room. So you still have to connect it to a computer. We are not completely in the post-PC era.
It's not a paperless office quite yet, no.
I guess the store would activate it if you asked them, but...
I don't know if they do that, because remember that linking to your desktop also gives you backups and also gives you your connection to the iTunes store.
But you couldn't say to them, look, I don't have a computer and I still want an iPad?
I do not know. I should probably find that out.
That's an interesting.
I don't think. my guess would be no, because you certainly wouldn't want the.
I believe they will activate it.
I'll have to.
But they probably would do something like say, well, dude, you're not going to be able to back it up, because you can buy apps directly on the iPad. You can get music on the iPad, but I think they will activate. Yeah, the chat room saying they will activate it.
Yeah, and also one of the parts of my sort of insights as I've been playing for the past few days is that Apple has really turned an interesting corner on the iPad in that they weren't complete. I don't think they were completely sure about how people would relate to it after they released it, and they were ready to open up one of 3 different envelopes after the end of 6 months to decide what path are we going to take with this.
Right.
And they decided to go really gutsy and say, this is not an accessory to another computer. This is a computer in and of itself, and it's a destination computer. We want you to think about doing movies on it. We want you to think about using all your presentations, all your word processing off it. We also want to make sure that no matter what you want to hook it up to and use it with, you'll be able to use it with that. So this is, I think Apple, if you thought that Apple was pretty strong about the iPad in 2010, I think in 2011, you're going to see them being even more aggressive. I think they stopped going after the netbooks, and this year, they're going to start going after notebooks with the iPad.
Understandably so. I mean, that was clear in Steve's presentation when he said post-PC era.
Exactly.
He said he basically declared victory. He said,
well, unfortunately, what's that old statement? It's not bragging if it's actually true.
Right.
All the competition got completely papered with this. With this, I was trying to twice now. I've tried to figure out how to write pieces about the iPad 2 in which it doesn't sound as though I have totally drunk Apple's Kool-Aid. At least on the iPad's front, there is. I wrote a piece that was published on yesterday, I believe. That was just talking about. Oh, here's the state of tablets. Here's which iPad you might. Here are all the if you're thinking about getting an iPad in about 3 months when there's more to purchase. Here's the model to buy. And here's what's coming out from other manufacturers in the next year. And there's just nothing coming out in 2011 that is going to be in any way competitive with the iPad. If you're talking about something that looks like this and fills the exact same role of an iPad, there is nothing on the market that even merits basic consideration.
Well, I mean, isn't that premature to say that? I mean,
no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
You haven't seen the playbook.
I have seen him use the playbook. Also,
why are you laughing? You don't think it's even possible that BlackBerry could compete?
No.
Okay.
No, actually,
Alex thinks it's absurd to even say that.
I think the technical term is preposterous.
Okay, and the Zoom, you have a Zoom, I presume.
Here's the problem: is I've had a bunch of BlackBerry like touchable like screen type phones, and they were so far from usable that it kind of exited my reality.
Okay,
that's
so Zoom, no.
Oh, wait. Let's go back to the playbook. Now, I actually called that one out as if there's any one tablet that's not made by Apple that I'm optimistic or interested or / optimistic about, it is the playbook, because it's the one tablet coming out in 2011 where it's clear that they're not trying to make an iPad. They're trying to make something different. I think one of the smartest things that BlackBerry did was listen very, very carefully when Steve Jobs railed about how, 7-inch tablets are stupid. There's no way it can possibly work. They're going to die. And at BlackBerry, they said, okay, so Apple is definitely not going to make a 7-inch tablet. Let's make ourselves a really good 7-inch tablet. And I've only had about a half hour of time with a working playbook so far, but I liked what I saw.
I did too. I thought it was quite impressive. It multitasks beautifully. Where they're going to have problems is what Steve Jobs pointed out already with Honeycomb, is that there is the app ecosystem. I mean, it's
it's not Honeycomb. They're doing.
No, I know it's not Honeycomb. It's QNX, but I'm saying that that's the same. Steve said there's only 35 apps or whatever he said, 10 apps for Honeycomb. Okay. It's even worse for BlackBerry.
They said 100, but here's the difference. I'm not convinced that you need to have a million apps available for a million apps to make it work. I do think that if you have a decent tablet that fits a certain role, that works well, and is priced right, if you have the right 10 apps for it, including the Kindle app, and Amazon will build a Kindle app for it. If you come out with a new wristwatch and you ask Amazon to please make a Kindle app for it, they'll make you a wristwatch-based version of the Kindle app. A good Office suite, good web browser, make sure the email is good enough that you can rely on it all day long.
And that's a question mark with the playbook, because it doesn't come with an email app, which is very strange.
We'll find that out. Unfortunately, as with all of these tablets, the biggest damage is that they're not willing to tell us in advance how much these things cost.
Yeah. That's because they can't get anywhere near the price.
That's an interesting thing. Zoom, they couldn't do it. The Zoom, they couldn't do it, right? It's just, but it is a faster system.
Well, now they're
better components, right?
But the tester with the iPhone,
it's not faster.
Yeah, the iPad or the Zoom.
We're talking about the Zoom being more expensive than the iPad 2, because it has higher quality components.
But it's not as fast as the iPad 2.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
What components are better?
Camera?
I spent
the playbook camera is definitely better. We know that.
Okay, I did spend Sunday doing side-by-side photo shootouts, and I don't think it reinforces the idea that the iPad 2 camera is kind of awful. But I compared it against the Zoom camera, against the Samsung Galaxy Tab camera. They're all really designed for video and not for still pictures. So you're not going to get a good camera in a tablet right now.
Yeah, actually, Macworld, I think, did a side-by-side comparison also of the pictures. Galaxy Tab, iPad 2, Motorola Zoom. They agreed with you that unfortunately, that the still camera in the iPad wasn't so good.
But that's
the Zoom wasn't as good as the iPad 4. They didn't have a BlackBerry, of course, to test. So I think it's premature to say there won't be anything in 2011 that's as good. I don't know how you can say that, Andy. There
are 5 different manufacturers who have announced an intention to enter into this market. I have now seen all 5 of their pieces of hardware. None of them have been able to add an innovation that can exceed the iPad 2 in 2011. There is no feature that they have in their device that the iPad does not have. They will not be able to get anywhere near the depth and the quality of the apps that are there. Also, none of these devices I have seen have anything close, anywhere as close to as integrated and as coherent as the experience you have on the iPad. Android 3.0, it's a big leap forward. And when I reviewed the Zoom a few weeks ago, I did say that it's the first tablet I've seen that's actually in the iPad's class. If you want to use If you need something that does the job of an iPad, the Zoom can do it. It just won't do it quite as well. But you still don't. Still have an incredibly clumsy and inconsistent experience from app to app to app. That's why I think that 2012 will be very interesting, because each one of these companies that's competing with the iPad will have extra components in place. HP, for instance, has announced that they're really going all in on WebOS. It's going to be their phone OS. It's going to be their tablet OS.
Yeah,
and WebOS
I thought that was
will also ship on all their desktops. And
I thought that was quite interesting. So WebOS is going to be an interesting player as well.
Right. So that's an example of, don't try to make another iPad. Try to make your own thing. So many people. There's so many great reasons to buy an HP desktop or an HP notebook anyway. So you need to buy yourself a brand new i21 8081 core processor upgrade to your notebook in 2012. In late 2012, early 2013, now you're finally in a mindset where you really want to buy a 10-inch tablet. You've got the iPad, which is wonderful. Then you've got this HP tablet, which will act as a completely transparent. I'm speculating here. Please realize I'm speculating. But now you have, on the other hand, you have this other tablet that is designed to be absolutely intimately related to everything that you do on your HP, where it will automatically find your HP computer no matter where it is, run the exact same apps in the exact same way with the exact same data. This will just be a projected version of everything you've got on your desktop. That suddenly makes it an interesting buying decision when you've got these two tablets side by side. But that's not going to happen until 2012. In 2011, I don't see any competition. And of course, I did realize how far I was sticking my neck out by saying something that dramatic. And believe me, that's one of those things where I type something and I keep looking at it and I focus on it every time I look at that draft. But in the end, if I truly believe that and I truly believe I can defend that, I have to say it. So if there's something else in November, the first line will be, I was wrong, I was wrong, I was wrong, I was wrong. The new Lambada Wear Disco Pad 2012 is the most awesome thing ever.
Okay.
I've just thrown away my idea.
So let's then maybe qualify what you said. In my crystal ball, from what I can see so far, there's nothing even on the horizon that's.
But don't we? I mean, CES is usually where people are blowing their wad. I mean, that's when they're showing us that this is what we're going to do this year.
When we didn't see anything at CES. No, I agree with you on that.
You know, and they wouldn't let me touch the Zoom.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, we've touched the Zoom now, and I mean,
we have now. But I'm saying, but that's like it was so early on.
Samsung's doing a 10-inch with Honeycomb. I liked the Galaxy Tab a lot. I would say it was close. I would consider it perhaps closer to the iPad 2 than you did, Andy. But I agree with you. There's nothing in the class of iPad 2, even the Galaxy Tab, which I think is a very good product.
I still feel like this is like the iPod version 2, where you know everyone's scrambling. The iPod made this huge impact, and then everyone scrambled. And then it got too far ahead, and then everyone just kind of gave up, moved on.
Well, Apple didn't advance. Now, this would be my thumbnail review to interrupt yours briefly, and then we'll get back to Andy. Apple didn't advance the game that far. They kind of advanced them minimally far. It's thinner. It's a little lighter. It's got a camera, not a great camera. It's faster, but until we see apps that take advantage of it, it's not particularly noticeably faster.
Oh, it is way faster.
In every app, I don't see that. Most apps are single-threaded, so I don't think I wouldn't expect that.
No, it doesn't. It's so hard to find a benchmark that's real world. What my benchmark was actually the best solution that I could come up with was Auto Stitch. And I decided that I'm going to, because it's an iPhone app. You can see that I'm running it actually just it's an iPhone app.
Right.
Where I took a 23-shot panorama.
That's big.
And decided that I'm going to calculate how long it takes for the iPad 2 to build that panorama and how long it takes for the iPad 1.
That's a fair comparison.
And the iPad 2 got it 2.2 times faster than the original. Everything works faster. Now, you're right in that a lot of different applications are going to be tuned for it. There right now, I have a list right now that Apple provided me with of apps that they know for a fact have been optimized specifically for the iPad 2. The biggest games they didn't even, as far as I know so far, and I'm still trying to talk to the actual developers of these games. What they haven't actually made processor specific enhancements. They've simply said there is so much better performance in this chip that all we have how we decided that we're not going to have this really higher density texture map for the crowd scenes and the glints off the armor and the weapons because the iPad 1 processor couldn't handle it. Let's just upgrade all of those textures because now we know that the graphics processor and the CPU can definitely handle it. That's why you don't necessarily see, or my experience, you don't necessarily see greater frame rates, but you do see that every single object is greater detailed because and not because they optimized it for the processor, but because they simply replaced the game elements with ones that would take a lot more time to render properly.
The two places that I noticed it the most was in GarageBand and also in the Daily. You know, the Rupert Murdoch's. You know,
Oh,
Daily.
yeah, really?
Yeah, the Daily was.
You're
like,
actually still reading that?
That's
pretty awful. you still have the free subscription, I hope. You're not
I'm playing with it. You know,
you're paying for that.
I have friends that work there. So
all right. Well, it's wonderful then. I just love it.
You know, they have, but my brother shot. They did a thing on Rango, and my brother actually shot the interviews. I mean, he shot the video for it.
Oh,
So
all
I
right.
was,
Well, then
know,
I
so-
like them. I
See,
think the Daily is
they're
keeping
great,
great people like your brother gainfully employed.
Exactly.
I like
But it was, when it came out, it was really clunky. You know, on the iPad 1, you know, like when you start moving stuff, everything doesn't really want to move very well and everything else. And on the iPad 2, suddenly it was like, boom, it really made a difference. The other one, though, is GarageBand, where on the iPad 1, it's constantly re-optimizing. And on the iPad 2, it's just fluid.
They never really wanted you to run Garage. I mean, you can run GarageBand on the iPad 1, but it was clearly positioned for the iPad 2.
Yeah. My son still enjoys it on the iPad 1, but
is it multi-instruments that have a hard time?
It's actually any individual instrument seems to work fine. It's when you add, it's when you start layering them that they start to
multiple tracks.
Yeah, when you start adding multiple tracks, it starts to get ugly.
I have to say this. Yeah, I could see how this would really challenge the GPU and the processor and what it's doing.
You played
and
with
all
the
this
smart
stuff.
keyboard, right?
Smart keyboard. I mean, it's just the smart instruments are really what's most interesting to play with. This is a spectacular program.
Yeah.
This by itself should sell a lot of iPad 2s.
Yeah. So I showed that to my wife, and she literally within like a minute of looking at GarageBand, she was like, I need one.
Done.
I need one. When do I get one? I said, well, they're now. I should have bought two. What was I thinking? That's all I got to say. Now I have to wait weeks with her stealing my iPad.
So what else, Andy? Give us some more of your thumbnail review.
Mostly it's hard to really appreciate exactly how much thinner this actually is compared to the previous one. I have to make a certain point kind of delicately. I want to do a personal note to Apple. I love it that it's that much thinner. It's incredible that this is actually a multi-core, really, really incredibly powerful computer. Please don't make it any thinner than this. I think that they found exactly how thin they can make this without making it a little bit harder to use. I kind of wished before I started using it without the cover attached, and I kind of wished that the back were a little bit grippier, because when it's this thin, there's no hard edge of any kind to sort of settle into a crook. I could sort of sense myself being stupid at some point, trying to put this like inside my bag and my finger slipping on it and actually dropping it. But balanced against that is this cover is you cannot. It's I have to sort of reel back a lot of my enthusiasm about certain things without looking like a stupid Apple fanboy. But this cover. Only Apple, I think, could put this much thought into something as simple as a protective cover, because you've probably seen how it has this cool thing where it'll automatically wake itself and sleep itself. Look how fast it does that. That's how fast. You don't have to wait. You don't have to unlock it or anything. You open it, and it's as though it was never asleep to begin with. You've seen the other two modes where you can set it up as a typing easel or as a stand easel, but then, as I'm sort of like playing with this, and I'm thinking, dang it, it's kind of hard to hold it and read. I realized that you can accordion fold it, and this is the most comfortable thing in the world to hold on to and read with. I was at a diner, having breakfast at a diner this morning, holding it like a newspaper while I'm having my pancakes, and it's the most comfortable thing in the world to hold on to. It feels, you feel as though, yes, this thing cost me $500, but man, did Apple really want to earn every penny of my money in this design? iFixit did a teardown, of course, not only of the iPad, but also
they tore down the cover.
Right, but
I love iFixit.
You think what's the easiest thing you could possibly do? Well, of course, the slick thing we're going to do is we're going to put a magnet in it, but it's designed so that it's almost, you have to work to get this to go on the wrong way. There's I think they said there's something like 30 different magnets inside here, all designed so that. It's all designed so that look at that. All designed so that when it attaches, it will grab. It also will align itself perfectly. It's if you don't have a cable trying to pull it down, you wouldn't want to try to lift it up by the cover, but you can. It can actually support the weight of the iPad. It's just a marvelous part of the design. Apple told me that it was developed completely concurrently with the iPad 2, meaning from the very first stroke of a whiteboard pen on a whiteboard, it was being designed so that the iPad could work with it, and this would work with the iPad.
Do you recommend this? I guess everybody's getting the smart cover. I got the smart cover.
I recommend it pretty highly. Until
you're still going to want a case though, because it doesn't protect anything on the pad itself.
It doesn't. Well, it's kind of thick, so it protects the front pretty well. It doesn't protect the back. That's fine. But unless you're worried about scratches, and that's something to be concerned about if you're concerned about selling it on. I also noticed that carrying it around in my bag for 3 or 4 days. It is possible once you toss it inside a bag,
you gotta be careful
for the cover to get dislodged like that. That's the only disappointment that I had associated with the cover. But the good news is that I didn't think to bring a magnet with me. But the sensor for the cover is just a magnet that's right here in the middle here. So if you take a kitchen magnet and just
it's working.
Sorry,
rock and roll, baby. It is amazing how it just kind of knows where to attach. It always attaches properly. And so this is something
magical.
BlackBerry had in the holster for a long time. And if people are worried about the idea of a magnet, this little minor magnet's not going to do anything. It didn't do anything to the BlackBerry.
All I was going to say on that point is that any manufacturer that puts a magnet in that right position can take advantage of the that smart cover feature.
So we can have a bigger case that has a hole for the camera, which is the reason the current cases don't work, and is smart enough to have that sensing built into the front.
Right. Scotia is doing an iPad version of my favorite iPad case, the Fold IO. Clam Case is making an iPad 2 version of their Bluetooth keyboard. Everybody's retooling to make sure they can support the iPad.
Good.
So don't work.
Good.
So I was kind of when I first saw it a week ago, I thought, oh, did Apple figure out a way to make sure that people would have to buy a license to get the smart cover sort of magnets working? And that was a question that I can't get a specific answer as to whether Apple has produced a specification. I don't know about that yet, but I do know that really, if you take your Wallace and Gromit fridge magnet off of your fridge and put it on top of that sensor and take it away, it does the exact same thing. So I think pretty much anybody who designs cases and covers are going to build in that kind of function.
iFixit actually has been a great source. Look at this. They actually use a razor to cut apart the. They've been a great source also on the teardown of the. They immediately get one of these things and they tear it down on the iPad 2. They have identified now that A5 is fabbed by Samsung, and I believe I've seen a number of benchmarks, perhaps from Macworld, that say it's probably an A9 dual-core A9, not an A8 as Anand and others thought. The GPU, they also found the GPU chip, and I don't have the number in front of me. It's a long number, but obviously a very capable GPU. So we know a little bit more about the guts of it. Seems like the speakers aren't as good, Andy.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot less bass involved. I think that's part of the fact that this is so thin. Yeah. There was actually the little bump on the back of the original iPad, I think, was a nice little resonance chamber. I do notice a difference. I can't find a way to really qualitate that except saying it sounds like there's not quite enough bass in this one.
Well, and what you're going to want to do is use a speaker of some kind, like this. For if you're going to use GarageBand, you're going to not want to listen to GarageBand through that little tinny speaker. You're going to want to have a better speaker. Actually, this is going to be my pick a little later on. I'll show you a Bluetooth speaker that's really great with this.
Nice. Yeah. Do you notice that it's a little less comfortable putting the sync cable in? Like with this,
it's impossible.
Yeah,
what the hell's the story there?
It takes a little bit more work.
I feel like it's going to break it.
Yeah, me too.
What's that all about?
I don't think it's quite that bad. Well, there's also, but we didn't even mention is if you look at the headphone jack, which is unfortunately there's no squared off edge anywhere.
Right.
So it's not as though it's difficult to put in, but it's not quite as natural.
Right.
One of the things that kind of has got me curious about future designs is that you got to know that there's some office somewhere in Apple where some engineer is saying, if only we could come up with a new version of a headphone jack that would be flat instead of round. We could shave another 2 millimeters off the thinness of this, or we wouldn't have to worry about what kind of curve we put on the side of it. We can make this come to a sharper edge if we wanted to. Right. They're definitely coming to a lot of different design limits when you start making something this powerful that has to do this many things and make it this thin.
Thing that popped up for me was that it was just like, I can't I just keep on feeling like I have to think about it. With my older iPad, I was able to just kind of pop it on. And I agree with you that the Leo is in the house.
I'm sorry, I'm in the house.
It's Club MacBreak.
But it does make it. You hear a good. I mean, this is the GarageBand. I love this. This is their. Look, you get it. Roll the dice. You get it. It's just too much fun. But this is. You're hearing some good bass coming out of that smart drum. I mean, there's no question. Here's the smart bass. There's no question that.
And you can hit the very top tabs too.
Where?
Oh, I'm sorry. This
is
the
the
bass.
Liverpool bass.
In the guitar, you can
upright.
You just hit the
tabs, and it'll play the chord.
It'll play the chords.
Yeah. That's a pretty good bass. Gosh, this is fun.
They don't do the side. They should.
And they got the sequences, the little dials on the upper right.
Right. These things. I turned off autoplay, but let's turn it on here. I don't even know what I'm doing, and it sounds like something. Let's turn on notes. Look at the bending. Andy's doing it too now, right? You choose the scale. I mean, this is an amazing. This program, you're right, should sell the freaking thing. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing.
I know that they did this because it's just a good idea to do this, but
well, you have to remember that they have
at some point there's a certain amount of arrogance saying, "Oh, you think that you're making a tablet, and it's so adorable that you think that you." I'll tell you what. Here's a music app. I'll tell you what. We'll spot you 90%. Tell you what. How about just a 4-key keyboard that just nothing but play notes? Yeah. If you could do something that works even half as well as this, we will give you $80 million.
Yeah.
Here's the other challenge is that Apple is sitting on the technology that they have with Final Cut, with the former technologies of Shake and Chalice. When it comes to iMovie.
Well, did you see that somebody benchmarked iMovie on the iPad 2 versus a Mac Pro, and it beat the iPad 2 was actually faster at some things. I mean, this is this is all technology that they can go in from Logic and a lot of the other stuff that they purchased in the past. So they have access to all of this technology, and I don't think that these developers are told, "Oh, keep that in the Pro area." Right.
They're like, if you'd like to go over to the library of our code, just go
Right.
over and find something and optimize it.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, the GarageBand app, like I was testing out last night, by just I can only barely play this thing. That's the only instrument that I play. But so I played my little song, and then just spent the next 2 hours just having fun. Say, well, I can't play keyboard really well, but hey, look, I know what the chords are to the song I just played, so I'll just have it go. I'll just have the piano go C C C C C C C C F F F F F F.
Yeah, it sounds great.
It's like, my God, it looks like I actually know people.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. See, just that. Look how it's doing a bending of chords.
Isn't that amazing?
And it hits some of the pedals. It's awesome.
I like the Robo Flanger.
And it's responding to touch so quickly, so responsively that you can do this in real time.
That's where you're seeing. That's got to be the CPU, right?
Yeah.
You tap a button, and make it feel as though I'm tapping the real button.
Right.
Hey.
Right. Anyway, so it's an impressive, in many ways, impressive product.
An impressive product.
Yeah. That would be is that your Twitter review?
No, my Twitter review was, it's faster with cameras.
Yeah. And thinner. You left out thinner.
I don't really care about the thinner. When people ask, what's the big difference? I'm like, it's faster with cameras. So if you felt like things were dragging.
No, I gotta complain a little bit about the still camera. Is crap.
I don't care about the still camera.
I mean, you think that's because of the thickness that they couldn't get a better camera in there?
I think it was price. I mean, I think Apple is very focused on making sure that the price doesn't change. That they
they could put that in the iPhone.
I know. But the iPad is.
Wouldn't have you liked the iPhone 4 camera sensor?
Absolutely. And I tweeted that I said there's no reason that they shouldn't have put it in. I really think.
No, I think it's a signature Apple move where they decided, is it realistic for anybody to be using a tablet to take still pictures with? No, then it's not. Then
why
it's
spend
not
the money?
Important to us that we put in a great camera.
I think the next one will have a great camera.
It is important that it is important that FaceTime cameras and video cameras work okay.
Right.
And if you notice the focal length of the lens on the iPhone, it's about this wide. On the iPad, it's kind of like this because it is definitely optimized towards having a picture of you and the kid and showing it to grandpa. Yeah. So it's not a widescreen sort of effect. I think on that basis, you have to note that it's not a great camera, but I can't fault Apple for it because they never really said that this is a great camera. You're going to love shooting things at 320 by 240.
Right.
Well, but I think that the thing is that I think if people got used to taking photos, I mean, I think it sounds odd that you take photos with this, but I think if you started taking photos of them, having that full screen is a lot of fun to take pictures and video and everything else.
Now, the one thing they seem to, it's odd, but my sense of this, and I think Anand reported this, is that while it's a bad still camera, it's 920 by 760 still, or I'm sorry, 960 by 720 still camera. It actually does go to 1280 by 720 when it's going into video mode. It seems to change to a full HD camera, and in fact, Macworld said it's better than the Flip HD.
It's what it's doing. I mean, I think
is it scaling or is it just?
It's typically what it's doing is it's doing basically a non-square. So what it's doing is it's capturing it 960 by 720 and then popping it back open. Now that's not an uncommon thing. You know, a lot of the Panasonic cameras do that. The Flip may be doing that. You know, there's a lot of things that do that. It's a little bit of a cheat. It just makes everything just a little bit softer than it needs to be. But you know, it's.
Have you done tests on the quality of the?
I haven't tested it against charts yet. So we're going to be doing that.
Macworld does have some stuff, and they actually report that it is pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
What I find is there's only one major misstep in the whole device that I've really seen is that I think it's kind of odd that when they transferred the camera app over to the iPad, they decided to put the shutter button the same place it is on the iPhone, which means that when you're trying to hold up the iPad like this, if you look in the center there, it's kind of hard for your thumb to get exactly right there. When you're holding it vertically like this, that's kind of a big problem because the only way to it's really hard to get. You really would have wished that they put it right here on the side where you would naturally and comfortably hold it.
I agree.
This is again a $500 to $800 device that is very, very thin and it's not very grippy on the back. I really would have wanted them to put a trigger there so I can hold it as securely as possible while I'm trying to take this picture. I have to say when you look at the iMovie, we talked about the GarageBand, but when you look at iMovie and then you look at the upload to YouTube, upload to one of the things I'm planning to do at NAB is use this as like my little preview device, like when I'm shooting stuff, and I want to try to edit stuff together and upload them straight to YouTube on the device. But you really have like a little reporter in a box. You can do voiceovers. You can do you can do all that. You know,
it's a very interesting production tool.
It's interesting that you can upload directly to CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah, I report.
Yeah, so it's pretty nifty.
I almost can't wait to try using it that way. I probably should have in Austin, but I was so busy doing other stuff.
NAB is going to be my big test case for that. Yeah. I'm going to be doing some tests on making sure it works. So I'll probably post some stuff to my YouTube channel over the next little bit of time just so I can figure out if it works or not. But I think that NAB is going to be where I'm really going to hammer it. But I think people have been asking me, I have an iPad 1, should I get an iPad 2? And my tendency is for me, it's mostly if you really think you want the cameras.
Right. That's exactly what I said.
Then get it. If you don't know if you're really going to use the cameras or you don't think that they'd be that important, I'd probably wait if I already had an iPad. Now, if you haven't gotten an iPad, I would say this is, best thing since sliced bread. You should go get it because this is to me what I felt like this is like the super crazy one.
It's well worth getting.
Yeah. Well worth getting if you don't have one.
Don't feel bad if you have an iPad 1. You're not missing that much unless for some reason you just feel compelled to get that camera. I agree with you 100%. The thinness and the nominal, I mean, I understand it's much faster. But frankly, using most of the apps that I use, I don't see that speed difference. And frankly, how fast it renders the daily is not going to influence me in the long run.
Right.
GarageBand, though, and iMovie might be pretty compelling.
Right.
So,
being able to do the
not only that, but I think the video out.
Let's talk about that. You're doing that right now, Andy. That screen behind you, and so it is mirroring absolutely what goes on.
Right. Not only that, it's one for one. It will rotate with you. When you launch apps, doesn't make a difference. The app doesn't know and doesn't care. If you're using an app that is designed to work with the old video out, it will just simply it'll be mirrored until it decides that it needs to, until you start your presentation, for instance, and then it'll be back to two-screen sort of mode.
I can't believe that we didn't get one of those connectors. Can I go to an Apple store and get
they're there. I bought it right when I walked in. Yeah.
So they're maybe out of the iPads, but they're not out of the connectors.
If you want one sooner than later, I have one in my house. I mean,
I might have to borrow one for iPad today because that's fantastic. Thursday, but I'm going to go to the Apple store today and see.
Yeah, they'll have them.
Yeah.
Just let me
But
know.
also, there's now they fixed one problem that, as you can see, you can have protected iTunes Store content. It will stream. It will
that's
play
awesome.
out. It won't mirror, however. Your screen actually
Okay.
dims, probably because they figured that you don't want the distraction of that.
Right.
It also will work just fine with FaceTime. So you can be in the living room doing a really awesome full
baby.
video chat.
And
So-
the camera's on
Yep.
the iPad. You're looking at the
You
camera,
mounted
but
it.
the big screen has baby.
Well, and I've been thinking about that.
That's interesting.
And I think that this connection is a precursor to opening up the adding accessories or adding something else to the Apple TV 2, because that's going to let you know what what it's really like to have an app available on the on your TV. Like if you just had a little video input into the Apple TV 2, you could do the same FaceTime. You could have like a little camera that just popped onto the top of the TV.
So if see, this is the problem: is it's not wireless to play. Like if I had Angry Birds running on here, I still have to have it connected by HDMI to my.
Well, and it's weird
TV.
because
It'd
the problem.
be nice if it were wireless.
The problem with Angry Birds, as I did test Angry Birds on a large TV. I mean, I thought that was very important. It's the
Plants vs Zombies.
I
big
tested
screen.
Plants vs Zombie Field Runners and Angry Birds. It was my journalistic integrity,
Yes, of
and
course.
so the problem really is you can't look up into it because you can't see where your finger is and what you're doing. So you're not. You're still in the zone of the way you control it. You still want to look down. If you want everyone else to watch you do
look at
Angry
that.
Birds, that allows them to do that.
Look at this. He's got real racing up on it now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Andy.
Yeah. So now, hang
Do
on.
you steer with the? I guess you're controlling it.
I didn't test real racing.
The problem again is that it has to be wired. That's my negative. So I have to have a long enough HDMI cable or something.
Well, but apps can implement the AirPlay. They just haven't done it.
Okay, so if a game implemented AirPlay, it could actually play wirelessly to the screen.
Yeah, they just have to choose to do that.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's going to be like a new hack you can do into the gaming, so you can basically tell it to dual screen. I bet we'll see more games that do
Dual screen.
take advantage of dual screen.
Sure.
So that. And now here's the time where Andy stops talking because he's playing real
Steering.
racing.
Somebody in the chat room's telling me, and this is very interesting, that the old VGA adapter will also give you mirroring.
That's very true. I work with VGA. It is an iPad 2 specific feature, however. So whereas this new adapter will work with the iPad 1 in regular 2-screen mode, it will not mirror. Supposedly, it's a CPU-dependent sort of thing. There's a lot of horsepower necessary to mirror out, or at least to make it work consistently with everything. And that's why you can only do it on the iPad 2.
He's playing the game, folks.
I'm a star in a reasonably priced car. This is awesome.
One of the things that I think is really interesting about the is that a lot of the dual screen usage. So, like when you're using Penultimate or Sketchbook Pro, what you see on that second screen is like a whiteboard or a gray board or whatever, and you have the whole interface on your iPad, so you're able to draw and talk about stuff and see the paint brushes and see all the other pieces, but it looks completely different. So using these as a whiteboard, when we get into like educational uses and so on and so forth, I found that Sketchbook Pro is an incredible whiteboard. Where you can sit there and that's what I've been using for our training.
Put that up on the big screen.
Yeah, with your.
I want to do it with AirPlay though. I really don't want to have a wire attached.
Well, and all these apps, they just need to add that feature.
They can do it.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm actually relieved that the VGA cable does that, because we do have a VGA cable, and I think VGA is a little simpler for us to connect to our system. So that's great. Boy, we had a jailbreak the last iPad. All right, we're going to talk more about the iPad 2. Andy's a little busy right now, so we'll get
Go to
back
commercial.
We'll get back to him. I won't do the Audible ad right now. I'll tell you what. We'll save that for a time that Andy is a little more available.
No, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. You keep playing that game, sir.
So basically, Leo, you're saying, put down that game. You've got books. Okay, I'm sorry.
No. I don't
Sorry,
want
teacher.
to do that to you, actually. I want to talk about FreshBooks, and then we'll save Audible for later. Okay, so play on.
Hey, I got an Audible pick. I can do that.
No.
I'm a responsible adult. I'll use every word.
Play your game, Andy. Come on. If I were you, I would. He stopped it. Actually, I do want to talk about FreshBooks. FreshBooks makes invoicing easy. I used FreshBooks when it first came out. Amber MacArthur told me about FreshBooks. This was 2004, because they were a Toronto company, and I just fell in love with it. And I used it for invoicing for years until I had a staff. It's like you have a staff now, all of a sudden, of bookkeepers helping you, working with you. Makes it easy to invoice. Those invoices look professional because you can upload logos and everything. So much nicer than that, using a Word or a Pages template for invoicing, which is what I was doing. Of course, it does all the arithmetic and everything. It even has a time tracking program, both on the desktop and on the iPhone. So if you're, doing time tracking, a lawyer or whatever, you do the time tracking and then you automatically import it right into the invoice. So it really simplifies and streamlines invoicing. Makes it so much easier to send out that invoice in a timely manner. Makes it easier to get paid, too, because your customers can pay with credit card. There are 11 payment services, including PayPal. So, it's just they're getting an electronic invoice. It's on their screen. They click a button. They pay you. It's out of their mind, out of their head, and you get paid right away. I tell you, it actually really works to get you paid faster. And should you have a late pay client, automated late pay reminders, make sure that you don't let it slip through the cracks. You can, some clients, I have to admit, now this might have changed, but back in 2004 and 5, some clients said, "Where's my paper invoice?" I would invoice Rogers with an electronic invoice. They said, we would like a paper invoice too. And I said, okay. FreshBooks, you buy the paper invoices in a bulk, and then you press a button, it prints and mails and stamps and everything. So you don't have to touch the paper. It just does it. So it sends an electronic and a paper invoice. I just love it.
You got to grease the right rails. That's the key.
It greases the rails for everybody, you and your clients. So you will end up not putting off invoicing, which I always did. That's the worst.
There were times when I would it would be like 3 months after I finished the project. Goes, why didn't I get paid? And I was like,
forgot to bill him.
I did. Well, and what happened was the first week I was like, I don't want to deal with it. I can't find my Word doc. I can't find the Word doc that I used on the last one. And I can't remember what my invoice number is.
Right.
I'll get around
What's the next invoice number? That's a good one. So I remember, 3 months? I remember there was a client I didn't invoice for 9 months, and they were pissed when they got the invoice. It's like, we didn't... We would have paid you before, but why didn't you? So... this program saved my life over and over again. FreshBooks, painless billing, that's their slogan, and it's absolutely true. 2 million people now use FreshBooks to pay and send invoices, and you can too. It's free for up to 3 clients. So for a lot of you, that's it. That's all you need. It takes about a minute to set up an account, and you can do it right now. FreshBooks.com. I think they ask, they source it, and if you would, just say you heard it on MacBreak Weekly. We'd like you to do that only because we don't get paid. We get paid either way. You know what I'm saying? But I want all of our shows to get credit for listeners. Unfortunately, a lot of people just say, I heard it on Twit. No. Say you heard it on MacBreak Weekly, just so we get credit. Either way.
Twit's already got enough credit.
Twit gets plenty of credit. Those sons of guns. FreshBooks. FreshBooks.com. Give it a try today. Shortages. Andy, I'm going to give you full credit, full points. I said last week I was a little miffed that Apple didn't allow pre-ordering, that you had to stay in line. I said I submitted the conspiracy theory that it was, in fact, because they wanted those lines. You said, no. They don't need the lines. This is going to sell like crazy. You were absolutely right. Yes, there were lines, but it was absolutely constrained supply because if you order online now, it's, I think, 4 to 5 weeks. It changes every minute. It's now 4 to 5 weeks.
I looked yesterday. They're saying 2 to 3 weeks.
Yep.
So
it's clear that they are selling more than they can make.
The analysts are saying 1 million over the weekend.
That's got to be at least 1 million, right? I would say. There were lines at the pop-up store. That was a store I was in Austin. There were lines Friday. There were lines Saturday. There were lines Sunday. I was surprised they still had stock. On Sunday, They sold out on Sunday, and I was told that store had almost as many iPads as any other store. In fact, there was only one store with more, and that was the New York store. I think now all the stores are sold out. Am I right? You cannot walk into a store right now and get an iPad 2? I believe that's the case.
Yeah, I called around yesterday. I called 6 different stores. I found 4 that were completely sold out, 2 that if you really want and you need an iPad 2 right now, we can sell you the 16 gig model with the color and carry that nobody wants. But get down here right away. So
April 22nd, if you order today, I'm one of our listeners, E.B. Fain, says he ordered today, and I'm going to get it April 22nd. So that is 5 weeks.
Well, and I think that there are going to be sporadic supplies at the Apple Store. I think that's what it
there was
like.
a story, and I'd actually like to have this confirmed or not. There was a rumor that the Apple stores would open early this morning as they got restocked. They would open at 9 a.m., I don't know if any got restocked. So chat room
did.
They did.
I did. I talked to. I was at an Apple store Friday for the festivities and overheard the store manager advising somebody that they did intend to open at 9 a.m. today. I don't know that they actually did, though. That's just something I overheard a store manager.
I heard it too. I heard it too.
But yeah, I think that this might be the tipping point where Apple starts to rethink their policy of how they handle an opening day like that. They're going to be a circus full of people at every mall and every store waiting to buy. I don't think they can help the fact that there's always a chance they'll get N+1 people compared to the number of iPads they have on hand. I did get an email from somebody earlier today who told his own story that made a lot of sense. He was disappointed that it's okay to be like 300th in line. It's okay to be told by the store manager, "Don't worry, we've counted up the number of people, and and if you've got this wristband on, you'll definitely get an iPad." What they didn't, he was disappointed that by the time he got to the head of the line, he could not get the 64 gig black iPad from Verizon. He had to take what was available. We might be down to a point where they basically allocate. Here are the kind. What kind do you want? Great. Here's the one we're going to be able to sell you by the time you get to the head of the line.
I thought that the smart thing that they did in the San Francisco store was that they actually had cards. You know, they had cards that represented how many they had of everything, and they were going down the line asking you, okay, so what do you want? And then they'd hand you a card like that's what you're going to buy. You know, like when you say, do you want one or two? And then you say what color and what. And you could tell that when they were going through the line to make sure that no one was at the far end of the line being told that it was going to be there and it wasn't going to be there. You know, but they were using these little little index cards basically to manage making sure that people aren't waiting in line, because the line was a long time.
They're getting better at it, though. I think that's good. That's a good sign that they kind of understand their issue.
I didn't sit in the line the last couple of times, and when we got into the line this time, they have like in San Francisco they have the little velvet. They have the little velvet ropes.
Yeah.
They go all the way around, and then they have Apple employees like manning the whole thing to make sure people stay out of the way.
Given that there are lines, they're doing a good job of it. It was fun in the Austin store. They would cheer each purchase.
Right.
So there's this great feeling of excitement.
They do it more than anyone else. I think they're the only ones that have to deal with these like lines every 6 months. You know, it's kind of an odd thing to get good at.
Yeah. So if they've run out or they're close to running out, 1 million seems reasonable. I mean, they sold 1 million. They say of Verizon iPhones in the first weekend. So it seems they must have sold at least 1 million iPad 2s.
It's hard to say how many they were able to make. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is a lot of times there's Apple is so particular about so many things in their components that a lot of them just don't make it through the QC process.
Well, we are seeing some scattered reports of screen issues. I know Brian Brushwood got that yellow screen. We saw that with the iPhone 4. Seems to be the glue hadn't cleared or cured rather, and so you're seeing little weird things, but that they went away in time. He brought his back, replaced it. That might be an adhesive problem. There also apparently are some reports scattered again, not very widespread, of backlight leakage around.
Mine doesn't have too much
bezel.
of that.
You have some?
No. Well, you always have a little bit, in my opinion. I haven't seen
Mine
one.
looks awfully good. I have to say this is a very smooth. The best way to be look at a black screen.
Right. Yeah, you definitely want black. Every time that I've seen an example of this, they've always had like a black picture up or a black springboard
screen. Put a black background on it too, huh?
Yeah.
I guess I've seen it with all of them.
In fact, I almost seems
it's most noticeable on black. You would be able to notice it.
It almost seems. I have to say, it almost seems like this is a better looking screen than iPad 1. Is that possible, or is that just because it's shiny and new?
Shiny.
Yeah.
And new.
Yeah, I can't tell the difference. I thought so too. Then I realized that that's right. I keep the brightness down to almost nil on my own. So okay.
You just need to walk away from the distortion field.
Walk away from the distortion. Let's see. This is the closest thing I have to a black screen. Is our Twit screen on here? Let me go. I think it looks pretty good all around. I mean, I don't see any bright hot spots or bright spots anywhere. If I turn the monitor up even brighter, would I be more like? So I turn it all the way up. Turn off the auto brightness. That's as bright as it can get. Looks pretty good. What I love, and by the way, if you're thinking about getting a white one thing I should point out is that there's an optical illusion with the white border that it's smaller screen than it is, because you just kind of almost assume that the rest of this black part is part of the screen. So it's purely optical illusion, I know, but the white screen ones look a little bit smaller.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Apple, the one that Apple sent me is a black screen, and I've spent now about an hour using a white screen model, and it just feels kind of wrong.
Yeah,
like
yeah. I like the black. I like the black. That's the one I would opt for. You know.
Also, philosophically, the iPad works so well because the device itself is just a picture frame for the content and for the apps. I just feel as though the white screen calls attention to the device instead of it detracts from the actual movie you're watching or the web page you're reading.
Right. I got the Verizon model just for grins. Can't really tell any difference between it and the AT&T model, although I was a little shocked by the pricing menu. You can have 1 gig, 2 gig, 3 gig, 4 gig, or 5 gig caps. I think there's even more.
The 10 gig cap too.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's $35 for a 3 gig max a month. $60 for a 5 gig max a month.
I don't know why. I don't know why I've been such a Verizon curmudgeon, but I was just like, I'm just gonna get an AT&T one. You know, I was just like,
well,
you know. And
I don't think it makes much difference. I still have my old AT&T iPad, and you know, in Austin, where presumably there's a lot of AT&T traffic going on. Of course, they bring on extra trucks and stuff, but you know, extra base stations. What do they call them? I didn't notice any particular difference.
I don't know if there was a difference or not, but I just know I was sitting in an office building yesterday in San Francisco, and I couldn't connect via AT&T, and I was like, "This is what I get." You know, like this is what I get for being, you know, flipping about this. You know.
Well, and that's why I got Verizon, so I could lord it over you.
Yes.
I think for people who write a lot about Apple, I think one of the factors is going to be how many people in this press room are going to have AT&T, and how many are going to have Verizon. If so, I want the one that fewer people have.
Yeah, they don't have. Yeah. That's kind of why I chose Verizon.
I did look at the pricing structure between the two, and for most users, if you use 2 or 3 gigs, the price plans work out exactly the same. If you plan on using practically no 3G, you'll spend less money on AT&T. If you plan on using a crazy stupid amount of 3G, like more than 4 or 5 or 6 gigs, because you can buy the extra data on the Verizon plan, it's cheaper on Verizon. On AT&T, there's the upper cap is lower, so you'll always be paying overage charges.
Oh, that's
but
interesting.
I think that both companies were aware that here is the typical user. We got to make sure that other company is not going to be charging less.
Well, I bought 3 gigs, and I see I've already used 1.3 gigs in 3 days. That
what were you doing?
That doesn't bode well, does it?
What were you downloading?
Well, now this says reset 1128, so maybe it took some of the usage from my old one.
Okay.
No, that can't have been. Well, I'll reset it now. Let's reset it now. That's weird because, you know, this is, and by the way, we should talk about setting up a new iPad. It seemed to work quite well for me to take my old iPad, back it up, and then restore it onto the new iPad. It's interesting because Apple kept FaceTime and camera, even though those weren't part of the original backup, obviously, on my old iPad, but did not include GarageBand and iMovie, so I had to download those. But they were smart enough to keep the 2 apps and Photo Booth, too, that come with the new iPad on the new iPad. So I like that. It was painless, and I haven't had any problems, even though I went from AT&T to Verizon.
I'm always a big start from scratch guy.
Yeah, I would be. It's so easy to start from scratch. Oh, I will say one thing. It's so easy to start from scratch because you just sync everything. You've already synced it. You should have everything. I do have to point out, though, that even though it preserved my folders, which is nice, it didn't actually put some of the apps, but not a lot of them. A lot of apps got orphaned out of the folders, which means I have a lot of work to do to put those all back into the folders.
You know what? It's actually one of the reasons I start from scratch is the new one has about 1/4 of the apps that the old one has. So the old, I really went through and I went, do I really use that? And I like added each one really slowly because I was like, you know, because I have like 400 apps on my other one.
Well,
you know,
I give that advice on desktops. Mm-hmm. It's always best to start with a new OS, clean install, and be very judicious about reinstalling apps. I don't feel like on a tablet device it really matters how many apps you have, as long as you have memory for it.
I just found that all I was doing was just search. Like a search for the app because I don't even know where it is.
But that's why folders are so great.
Even with the folders,
hide them. I have a whole second page of folders, so I know exactly where everything is.
I have that too, but it's just easier just to go search.
Well, I see a lot of people doing that, where they slide it over to the right and they just type the first few letters of their app. And
so I decided to be really, really careful about what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I wish the search. This is actually the same mistake that Microsoft makes with Windows Phone 7. The search doesn't you can't constrain the search. It gives you apps, music, emails.
Yeah.
I mean, this can be kind of big if you're not careful about what you type in. It'd be nice if I could just say just search the apps. Anyway, that's a minor thing. What Twitter client are you using? You know, Twitter has said now don't make third-party apps. Don't do it.
You know, I don't Twitter from
we want everyone to tweet with our clients, our own official clients. After I have to say, Andrew Stone DM'd me and said you should try Twitter because the new iPad 2 version of Twitter, and I have to say I do like this, lets you send not just pictures, but you can also record audio and record video and send it out directly from the tweet menu. He's done a really nice job of this, I have to say. Geotagging is on. You can insert map links, built-in hashtags, built-in ats, and it's got all the little emoji icons you could ever want. Actually, these aren't emojis. These are just from character set, but still. Oh, no, there's the emojis. Look, the emojis. So
I like emoji. I do very little tweeting from my.
You're not a tweeter.
iPad. No. I do tweet. Oh, probably more than people would prefer. I do it mostly from my iPhone. My iPhone is like my little.
You might start wanting to do it from the iPad. I used to use Osphora, which Don McAllister recommended. But one of the nice things about this is it puts inline pictures. It's just I kind of like how he's created this system. You know. I think it uses the real estate well, both in portrait and landscape mode. And then if you click a link, oops. If you click a link, it has its. I guess that loaded Safari, didn't it? Yeah, that's Safari. Anyway, that's just one of my. That's Twitter. I change Twitter clients all the time. not my pick of the week. I just thought I'd mention that. And I like Andrew, so I wanted to give him a plug. What else should we talk about? We talked about supplies. Do you want to talk about the A5 chip? Apparently, they're clocking it a little slower than the A4, which is interesting. And yet we are seeing benchmarks that are quite fast.
Not quite. What they're saying is there are. I am pleased that there are people who actually will do teardowns of the CPU. You can look at here's an electron microscopic. That's how they figured out that it was a Samsung chip, because they looked at the typeface embossed
Isn't
on
that
the
funny?
actual
Isn't that
on
funny?
the actual wafer itself, saying, okay, that's the same typeface as on this other Samsung chip. Like, oh man, there are people who take life so diligently and so seriously, and I want to send them $5. That's
just for that.
I wonder if I could this could be like the start of the groundswell of support for this idea. I had this idea after once again being so pleased and so grateful for iFixit's teardowns. I got the idea that there should be like a voluntary $10 a head tax. That if you want to participate, that's fine. Here's the standard like central account to pay your $10 iOS or Apple tax to, and a board of 10 people decide that. Like iFixit is doing such great service on a weekly, regular basis to the entire Apple and iOS community that you get basically 5% of all the taxes collected from this, and we will basically figure not just, hey, wow, you did a really good app, we want to reward you. I'm saying that the people who build these free apps and these free things that everybody benefits from, like the people who do Instapaper, great free app. Here you go. You get 2% of the fund for 20.
I agree.
That's a nice idea.
Although I have to say, Marco does charge for Instapaper on the iPad. It's free everywhere else, and it's $5 on the iPad. But it's such a nice. It's a way to support Marco. Yeah. So I'm glad to pay him for that. I'll tell you.
I'm sorry, but
I think you're right. I think a fund would be a good idea. Yeah,
it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
But going back to the CPU, the teardown of the CPU. It says that it's two cores, each of which independently works more slowly than the A4. But put together, of course, they work much, much faster. And that's just me reading what other people.
That's what and again, I don't know how iOS is different from a desktop OS, but in a desktop OS, unless an app is explicitly multi-threaded, it will just use one core, which means some apps may potentially be slower on the iPad 2.
Okay.
Maybe iOS is smart enough to do something.
I think the iOS is separating you from that.
Okay. Yeah. All I'm saying is that if my test app was an iPhone app, it's not even written for the iPad, and there are no multi-core processors available for for iPhone yet. So I'm very confident in simply saying that every app will get a significant speed boost just for free.
Especially if you're using the libraries that are Xcode, that are going to do those things for you. If you're using specific libraries and not trying to write the code, if you're writing the code yourself from scratch,
right,
you're probably going to have to make sure you access those. But if you're using the core libraries, I think that it's going to optimize automatically.
Sorry, don't pay any attention to that noise. I'm just pairing up my pick of the week, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But one more story that comes to us from Europe. I love these stories that come. The Granny Smith Apple. So this is actually, there's some interesting facts in this story. This is from Patently Apple. I guess Apple made a deal with Apple Corps, the Beatles company, that all Apple Corps logos, including this famous green apple that's part of the Beatles records, belong to Apple. They may have to pay some license fees to Apple Corps. But so Apple has now submitted trademark registration in the U.S. for the Granny Smith. But it doesn't mean necessarily they'll use it. It's just part of the deal. Also, the royalty split, according to reports, could be more lucrative for the Beatles and other artists, more than the 30%. And it's a unique licensing deal that says Apple may pay royalties directly to the artist instead of treating them as retail sales and paying royalties to EMI, the label.
Ouch.
Well, I think that's great for
it's great for the Beatles.
For the Beatles,
EMI is like
EMI says, "Oh, we want some of that." Sony apparently owns also a part of the publishing catalog, so Sony would get some money as well, but directly from Apple. Let's see. I'm in pairing mode. I need to do my pairing. So we're going to take a break. Come back with more in just a little bit. We are talking about Apple. And, I was going to give you my review of the MacBook Pro 15, the new Sandy Bridge. Effing fantastic.
Yeah.
Putting the SSD in there is great. In fact, I only got the 128 gig SSD, but it's big enough for me because I have an Air,
right,
and a 64 gig Air. So I have to say, kudos to Apple for the migration assistant. It makes it so easy to move to a new Macintosh. I took the Air knowing, well, that's not got anything more on it than I can fit on this new thing. Air does not have, of course, FireWire, so I couldn't use target disk mode, but they say plug an Ethernet cable in. It's a little slower, but it did a perfect job of transferring not only all my documents, but all my apps, all my settings over to the new MacBook Pro. Runs beautifully. I didn't have to do anything to make it, it's there, it's working. And then I put Boot Camp on, put Windows 7 on. It runs Windows 7 like a bat out of hell.
Right.
I mean, really fast. Some say actually it's faster because Microsoft does a better job of using the Sandy Bridge's multi-threading. Then I put VMware Fusion on it, immediately recognized the Boot Camp, and I'm able to run Windows at a very high rate of speed within OS 10. It's just slick. Boots in seconds. It's fantastic. Highly recommended. And noticeably, by the way, noticeably faster everywhere.
And it's got Thunderbolt.
Well, I'm waiting. Yeah, when will that?
July.
See, that's going to be hideously expensive, isn't it?
I don't care.
But that's why I did not really mind only 128 gigs because I figured, well, I can always have a
that's the whole thing.
Thunderbolt
I think
external.
I think that what I'm really looking at is with Thunderbolt that you really can say I'm going to have everything externalized. Everything is going to be connected outside of my computer.
Right.
I mean, when you look at a 700 megabytes a second, megabytes, not megabits, megabytes a second. Because it's a rated SSD. So RAID 0 SSD. With a Thunderbolt, and what that means, just to kind of put it in perspective, my big HD camera that shoots 444 uncompressed is a whopping 189 megabytes a second. So I could theoretically capture 3 of those. You do a 3-camera shoot, uncompressed 444 into this drive. Now it wouldn't actually work, but 2 of them possibly. So I could possibly do stereo. A stereo 444 uncompressed.
You could do 3D
off my laptop.
You could do 3D.
3D 444 uncompressed off my laptop. That's the future that's coming, and that's why I think NAB is going to be really exciting because I think that. At NAB or IBC. It'll be either NAB or IBC in September in Amsterdam. One of those two, we're going to see a ton of professional level Thunderbolt tools that are going to turn these laptops into just incredible, workstations.
We're going to be at NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters meeting. It's coming up in April. Alex, Lindsay, and I, and all of Twit. We're actually Twit's the official podcast partner to the NAB, so we're going to have some great coverage of that. I know it's a little bit inside baseball. It's kind of more of a broadcasters convention, but I think because of things like this,
cool toys.
There's lots of cool Apple stuff. It should be fun. And you're gonna broadcast live from there. We're gonna broadcast live from there. We're actually partners with the folks at NewTek who do our TriCaster. We're doing a really interesting future of digital streaming broadcast panel that I'll be on along with the NBA and Adam Carolla talking about streaming, which should be fascinating. We'll broadcast that live. It's called Digital Minds. So lots of stuff from NAB coming up.
Yeah.
When I said NBA, I meant NBA for the panel.
And I may be streaming the Sunday before if I'm just finalizing the OKs. I'm talking actually about live streaming as well.
Yes.
Just the components of it on Sunday at NAB. So if you're there for the course loads, but I'm actually asking for permission to take one of my courses and stream it. I figured streaming the the seminar about streaming.
I would love you to do that.
Would be useful. So so stay tuned. Next week I should know if that's all finalized. So I'll talk about it on the show.
All right, folks. Our picks of the week are coming up. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. We did get some Mac news in there. Wasn't
crazy,
easy, but I got some. There's iPad 2 and Mac news.
It's actually one of the most exciting Macs almost ever released, as far as I'm concerned.
So the new MacBook, one of the reasons I got the 15 and not the 13 is the 15 has both the Sandy Bridge Intel motherboard-based graphics, but some very fast NVIDIA graphics on it, and this thing is smoking.
Yeah,
I have one on loan that I'm reviewing as soon as I find a week in which there's no Apple news that I can actually finally review this notebook, and I'm going to be buying one myself in the next few weeks.
Yeah. This is the biggest upgrade to MacBooks in a long time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you were limping along with an older MacBook last year, waiting for the right reason to go, this is the reason why you waited.
Yeah, you want to get new technologies like Thunderbolt when they come out, presuming that they succeed. And I think it's hard to tell if something's going to take off. But
Apple did a good job here because it costs you nothing. If there's never any Thunderbolt anything in the future.
Right.
It's not even there's an extra port here that you will never be able to use. It's the mini display port that's on the last year's MacBook is now the mini display / Thunderbolt port. So but I don't think there's going to be nothing coming out in the next couple of years. You're good.
My experience with battery life on this 15, I've only had it for a week, not even that long. I got it Thursday. Is it's about the same as the old MacBook Pro. I don't notice it less.
Yeah, it is the same. Apple took pains to say that while they advertise that the battery won't last as long as last year's, they're making pains to say, well, we changed our testing procedure, and so that if you were to test last year's MacBook with this year's protocol, you will find that they both have the same battery life, somewhere between 7.5 hours. They're saying.
Right.
Whereas last year they were claiming 8 or 9.
And it's really 5 in normal use. 4 or 5.
5?
Wow. The deep soak test I did, I got close to 8.
Really?
Wow. Well, that's there. If I have time, I like to do like lots of different scenarios.
Right.
And so long as I can find a scenario in which I can get the expected battery life out of it without having to suffer, I'll take that.
See, I think I use mine a little harder than everybody else.
What's the deep soak test? What is that?
The deep soak test. Watch a movie, brightness all the way up. Use a flash video codec, something that's going to really thrash the processors, the graphics processor. Anything that can draw power, please turn that on and have it actually active and working. I don't go so far as to find the absolute worst case scenario, but I want to find out what's the least that you can possibly expect to get in a usage scenario, and I'll drain it down to at least 50% and then extrapolate from there.
Okay.
I find that it's for me about 3.5.
Yeah.
3.5 hours is what
well, because I bet you get those fans spinning up, and boy, when they spin up all the way,
they're on. When I'm using
rocket ship
most of the
taking.
time. Yeah.
So we know that when that NVIDIA kicks in, it's generating some heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say though, it's a power tool. I still prefer my Air for like getting around town. I brought the 15-inch to Austin just because just to use it and stuff. But I mean, the Air is going to be my traveling computer. But if I need power, if I'm taking pictures on a trip, I'll bring the MacBook.
Yeah,
awesome, the Pro. All right, let's take a break. Our picks of the week coming up, but right now it's time to pick an Audible book for you. Audible.com/MacBreak. You know what Audible is, AUDIBLE. It is just simply the best source for audiobooks in the world. About 80,000 titles now, books, comedy performances, radio shows. There's even audio versions of the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. By the way, if you get a subscription on Audible, those are free to listen to, daily updates from the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. That's part of your subscription. I encourage the subscription. You know, I have the 2-book a month. Tell you what, try with the gold plan. That's 1 book a month, 1 flat rate. Almost all the books on here are single credit, which means you can get any book or almost any book on here, except for the really, really long ones, every month. And there's really the challenge at Audible is they have just built their list so well now that whether it's classics or bestsellers, history, science fiction, no matter what kind of book you like to read, there are hundreds, if thousands of books in that category, and it's very difficult to choose. Hey, Andy, I'm listening to the book you recommended a few weeks ago, the Smothers Brothers book, and loving it.
Yeah, that's actually there are a few books that are that I enjoy so much that it actually they never get deleted off of my iPhone.
Yeah,
because it's always worth dipping back into it for another for another go, and that definitely made it onto that list.
You know, Tommy Smothers is a parent at the high school my kids go to, and I did not know. You know, you don't know from behind the scenes if you know, but it turns out Tommy is the comic genius, really, the guy behind most of this show. And next time I see him, I'm just going to have to bow down to him, because when you read this book and you read how principled his stance was, and you know that show could have gone on for many, many more years had he not caved into CBS, but he didn't. He stood for what he believed in, and I think he's an inspiration for all of us in new media.
You know, that's one of the reasons why I like this book so much, because the author was very balanced about it. It wasn't hero worship about Tommy Smothers. The author spends just as much time saying Tommy was picking fights because he wanted to pick fights.
Absolutely.
He lost sight. He lost a sense of humor, and he lost the sense of the goal. At the end of it, there's almost a kind of a heartbreaking colophon, which it says that, do you know that if he had simply found a way not to be a pain in the butt for 6 more months, there would have been a regime change at the network, and that show could have gone on for another 2 or 3 years.
It is a little bit of a Greek tragedy. You know, he could have been the Lorne Michaels of our era instead of Lorne Michaels, but nevertheless, I identify with Tommy and his willingness to pick a fight. Right. So I kind of liked it. But you've got another big book for us to pick this week.
Another one, and this is one of those times where I'm only 3 or 4 chapters in. I only started it a few days ago, but I'm loving it so much that, I don't have to finish this. It's by Tracy Kidder. It's called Mountains Beyond Mountains. I'm sure that a lot of our listeners have already heard about it. It is a first-person account written by Tracy Kidder as he follows around this doctor who is working in Haiti. As he was at Harvard Medical School, he visited Haiti, was really captivated and fell in love with not only the country, but also taken by the overall problems of everybody who has to live, thrive, and survive down there. And so it is a long essay about the problems of what one person can do to try to solve as many problems as possible. And it's so captivating because I think the first-person perspective is perfect, because we're not only Tracy is following this doctor around as he tells his own story and also goes about his daily routines down there. And not only are we hearing the story, but we're also hearing Tracy Kidder is substituting for us. How are we reacting to this? What are we thinking? What questions are going through our own minds? And his arc is pretty much following our own arc, because it's not your basic Oprah's book club. Oh, isn't it nice that there are angels in the world who it doesn't take that easy route out. It really says that this is hard, boots on the ground work. You have to go through multiple shifts of attitude to figure out how to make things work. You cannot, if you really care about the people, you cannot be so self-indulgent as to go into, oh, these people are enemies and these people are good people and I'm going to side with the good people. Right. You have to have all of these different people and all these different factions and all these different agencies working together. So I'm only on chapter 4, but it's one of those books where it's like, I can't wait for another 2 hours when I get to eat dinner and I can keep reading this book. I did download the Kindle edition of the book rather than the audiobook edition, but because I can't wait to keep trying. I read if you go to tracykidder.com, the entire first chapter is available for read, and as soon as I read that, I'm like, I don't want to have to wait until I'm in the car driving to listen to this. But if you do have a daily commute, man, it will change your frame of mind in so many different ways by the time you get to the office or back to the house. I expect this is going to be one of my favorite books of the year.
I agree. I actually have listened to the audio version of it, and it's fantastic. It's funny because I try to read books and I fall asleep. I can't do it, so that's why I have to have Audible. It's the only way I can listen. I actually get in the car just so I can listen sometimes. You know?
I've been having trouble with my most recent book. I'm listening to Dembiso Moyo's How the West Was Lost, which is she's an economist from Zambia, and she wrote Dead Aid, which is and then she's written this one, and it's really an incredible breakdown of what's going on right now financially for the U.S. and why we're in trouble. and it's pretty sobering, but this is like it is like getting a master's or at least an undergraduate in economics, because it is so
that
complex.
Would put me right out.
Oh, it doesn't put me out. But what I found is that I literally can't do what I normally do, which is I clean the house or whatever. Yeah. I find myself like rewinding and going, okay, wait, say that one more time. But it's a fascinating book. But it is not something you can do in the background.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go. There's all kinds of books.
So now I have to sit. I just have to sit in my yard and stare off into the distance. And
I'm listening to Mbisa Moyo. Please leave me alone. You're wired in. Well,
incredible book.
Couple of great. Well, see, this is the problem with Audible, and I'll tell you, when people who are Audible subscribers gather, most of what they do, most of the conversation is like, what have you listened to lately? What do you like?
Yeah, exactly.
It brings you back to reading. It makes you love reading once again. And I love that because I've always loved reading. Now I love listening. Audible.com/MacBreak. Your first one's free, but I can guarantee you it won't be your last. Audible.com/MacBreak. We thank them for their support of all of our shows. And do make sure you use that MacBreak URL so that this show gets credit if you decide to subscribe to Audible. We like getting a little credit for this show. Let us get our picks of the week. Well, I'm going to start. I never start, but I'm going to start today because I've got it all set up. This is so cool. Uh-oh. My battery's full. That's good news. This little red thing is the Jambox Jawbone from Jawbone. Jawbone, makes those earpieces. This is a Bluetooth speaker that actually has a microphone in it. So I use it. In fact, we keep it upstairs for our conference calls. So if you go out and you buy those, the big conference call systems, the Polycoms or whatever, you don't need that. If you
Does it have a microphone in it too?
Has a microphone. So it's a conference system, and it's a great speaker. So I really started to use it now because the speaker on the iPad 2 is so small. I'll just play some. Let's just play some music out of here, and you can hear how good this sounds. It's really got good bass. It comes out of both sides. So if you want improved bass, I use this on the cruise. I would put it in the corner, and it would fill a room. Doesn't that sound good? So now that's straight out of the iPad. So you get much better audio quality. And if you're using GarageBand or something like that, now it's not cheap. This is the negative on it. It's about $200. I know. It's expensive.
But it sounds cool when you hit the plus.
Yeah, it pairs easily. You can have it paired to many different devices. What?
Is this as loud as it gets?
No, you want to turn it up?
Turn it up. I just want to know what the.
I think this all the way up.
Oh, okay, it is all the way.
Press it. Yeah, I think it's all the way up now.
It's great.
But okay, watch. Now that's how loud it gets. Now put it in a corner, it'll fill this room because it's direct and reflect. So I put it in like little wooden corners, and you get incredible bass out of it. It really sounds good. Now it's not. Look, it's not a hi-fi system, but it is a really great little system. It will work with any Bluetooth device, including not only the iPad but your MacBook, and of course your iPhone. I have it paired to my iPhone. It's Bluetooth, 30 feet. What I would do is I'd set up in the cruise ship, and then on my iPhone I'd play back. I'd be listening to my audiobook, and then when I went to the bathroom, I would take it with me to the bathroom, take a bath. So it goes everywhere. It goes around.
Well, it's kind of nice that you can just kind of carry it around. I have this thing where I listen to NPR in the morning.
Perfect.
And it's just
That's your radio.
And I just kind of move it around.
Yeah,
and
wherever as you shave and brush your teeth and everything. It's decent sound. I wish it were less expensive, but I think adding the conference call feature makes it particularly useful because it does have a microphone in it. So this is our Polycom unit. I sit that there in my office, and we sit around, and it sounds great. because Jawbone knows how to do that stuff. So that's the Jawbone Jam Box.
That was expensive.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Are you ordering it right now?
I'm
It might
ordering
be
it right now.
like $179 on Amazon.
Yeah.
I know. I wish it weren't so expensive. I don't know why it's so expensive, but I think it's yeah. And again, well, you've heard it now, so I would. It says it can go up to 85 decibels, and I have to say it's not going to fill a giant room. But if I put it in the corner over here, so that it's getting the reflection off of it, we should do that.
$199.
$199. Yeah, I'm sorry. Jawbone from Jambox. Alex, stop! Don't order that. Give us your pick of the week.
My pick of the week. So I just have to pick it because I was so excited about it. We were talking about it earlier.
What's that?
GarageBand.
It is amazing.
GarageBand. If you iPad 1, iPad 2, you have to download GarageBand. It's like $3.99 or $4.99 or $2.99. I don't even know how much it is, but it's worth every penny.
No, I think it is. Aren't they both $5, $4.99?
Yeah, I think so. And it is.
Tell me what to show because I got it right here.
Okay, I mean just show the keyboard, just a smart keyboard.
Okay.
And then so I was showing the smart keyboard, and then start hitting the.
Turn up the sound so you can hear.
Okay, and then hit the little button in the middle there, that sustain.
Sustain. Turn that on.
Yeah, and then just hit one and just kind of hit the top ones, and then just. I mean, isn't that just? And the thing is that when you start, I started building up some layers and working on it, and so on and so forth. And if I was in corporate music, like building like little corporate bass stuff like that, I'd be terrified.
Listen to the B3.
I would be terrified. And when I thought of this, when I looked at this, I was like, "This is like GarageBand, but at the end of the game, you actually have a song."
This
you know, it's like that's the whole thing. Is it? Look at this. And how are you changing the keys?
So autoplay. There's different autoplays, right?
No, but
it depends. It depends on where you hit. If you hit the top, middle, and the bottom, you get different effects.
No, but was there a way to change all these keys, or is it all? That's the one thing I've been living in these.
I can turn up the rotation on the beat.
Yeah.
On the beat.
And so but the thing is, my son loves it and he's 3. My wife saw it for a minute and was like, okay, I need to have an iPad. I mean, it was, and the thing is that it is I just feel like this is such a precursor. This.
Man, I'm rocking.
Now, what I'm hoping is,
no idea what I'm doing.
It's like me.
Right.
It's like me with the driving game. You just stop. You lose sense of where you are because you're having fun playing with this thing.
And even if you don't end up with a song, I mean, it's like I can just sit there and just like totally just fill time goofing around with it, and it is amazing. And so the only thing I'm hoping is I'm hoping that Apple will either get very aggressive about adding more instruments or open it up. They never have before.
You can plug a guitar into it and then choose your amp.
You can sing into it. Oh, and these amps are,
Look at these amps. They're just great. I mean, they don't have brand names, but you know what they are.
Yeah.
These are just awesome.
And it's just, anyway, it's just amazing. And then you can do your own.
There's the audio recorder. An 8-track, right?
Yep.
So I can record the music. I can record the singing. I can plug in a microphone. And
there are some really higher end interfaces that you can get for your for your iPad through the USB connector.
Do those work on the standard USB connector? I don't have to get anything special.
There's some that are made for it, and then there's other ones that are USB compliant, which should be usable soon. So
you need to have powered USB. Is right.
Stand back. Here comes my art rock masterpiece. Sounds about as bad as...
Yeah, the 2 on the end.
Stay away from those?
Yeah, the 2 on the end, stay away from.
The 2 on the end are E major, A major, and D major. We don't like those. Huh?
No, it's just the 2 on either end. The
B's, the B diminished?
Yeah.
Like that.
Anyway, but
this is so cool.
It's just, that's all I got to say.
I mean, I don't even know what any of this means, and it's still fun to play.
Well, and that's the whole thing is
you would go crazy with this thing.
Right, and it's
major. No, they're minor. Sorry. M is for minor. Thank you. What am I, an idiot? Yes. And look, I told you I didn't know what I was doing.
Also, you do notice that the harder you tap the iPad, harder it recognizes as a harder hit.
It's using the gyroscope.
Wait a minute. Okay, watch.
Isn't that crazy?
It's one of those ideas that it's obvious once somebody else comes up with that, and then you realize that how come we didn't realize this early on that we could have used that to mimic velocity sensitive input.
Well, and the thing is that this is, but there is so much technology in here to
I'm
make
like a
this work.
4-year-old.
Yeah.
I apologize.
I know. Yep.
But that's what it brings out. It brings out
That's
the
a lot of fun for
$4.99. I
Yeah.
can't believe it.
I just think it's a stunning application.
Now, this is the sampler.
So you can sample.
So
There
I
you
can
go.
record a sample.
Yep. And then play it.
And then-
Go ahead and try it.
Okay, now I got that.
So
And you can even
so
do
in
pitch
case-
shifts.
So in case you're asking, officially now Apple has technically entered into the fart application game. If it emanates from the human body, you can record it and play it musically.
There's a Ferris Bueller segment here somewhere.
I don't know why my headphones keep going down in volume. Why is that? Is that just
I don't
me?
know.
Am I playing too loud?
I don't know what you're doing.
It goes to 11.
It's probably the Bluetooth thing.
That's so much fun.
Yeah.
All right, $4.99. You know what? That sells the iPad too, right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. No, it is. It's
Damn, that's good.
all I gotta say.
You think- and I'm guessing that by Thursday, every Apple employee in every store who has to stay at the iPad side of the store will want to kill the GarageBand team. And
Oh, yeah.
if we have to listen to far more minutes
yeah.
of like,
Well, it's like every music store in the world. The guy comes in and plays Stairway to Heaven, right? It's just what, you know. It's
And
just,
what I'm hoping is that that bands or Apple or both realize that there's a huge growth opportunity when you're looking at trying to make money. If you have a huge platform of people who all have GarageBand on their iPad, what if you released a simplified version of your song that people could play with? You know, Nine Inch Nails has done this in the past. Of where, what if the tracks were all there and people could sing over them and play with them and everything else? You could charge, $5 or $10 for the broken, the breakdown version.
so can you add
VR.
samples to this?
Not yet. So it's a little limited as far as that stuff goes.
I can do my own Seinfeld drops.
But Apple in the past has created in the past they've created jam packs and so on and so forth. So what I'm hoping that what we're going to see is a lot of extra things that they add to this, especially if everybody.
Now, when
buys
you
it.
save a song out,
Did Peter Gabriel, I guess, did it.
you can
first.
send it to iTunes.
Yeah.
Which is your iTunes, not the big iTunes, or you can email it to yourself.
and you can edit in GarageBand, and supposedly there is no practical difference between stuff that you recorded with the same hardware in the iPad and stuff that you might have recorded on the desktop version.
Really? Wow.
I think the biggest limitation is going to be the range of audio gear that you can plug into a desktop.
Right.
But it's not as though you're going to have to redo this because you originally recorded it on the iPad.
So I would love to see more, as you said, more instruments.
Yeah.
Presumably that's doable.
It's just
We don't
MIDI.
know.
They're just MIDI instruments.
They're just MIDI
it's just a
instruments.
matter of work. And here's the problem where I feel like Apple hasn't hit it completely, is not building a way for third-party developers. Like
Right.
just give them, like the whole lessons thing was a great idea.
Right.
But the problem is that it all had to be done by Apple. And so if they open this up a little bit, I think it would explode. I mean,
Oh,
it would
God.
just
I mean,
be
imagine if you get instruments in here.
Yeah.
There's so many more instruments you'd love to have.
Right, but I don't think Apple will do those. I think that, and so I think that's the only like fly in the ointment, is that I don't think the Apple team will allow us to, and what I'm saying is be very stringent, be super stringent about what can go in and how it works and everything else, and work with maybe even only trusted partners, but let some third parties, extend that. I'm hoping that they'll do that because it would be huge.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week.
If I can't simply say the entire iPad 2
You can.
and infrastructure,
You can.
Actually, I already did, so we've already spent an hour talking about that. I'm going to pick an iPhone app if I can, because this app is a really wonderful intersection between barking mad insane and actually kind of useful once you install it. It's called it's an iPhone app called Trip Mix, and what it is, it's sort of an 8-track tape deck simulator for your iPhone.
Ooh, it's about time.
Right. So what it will do is that,
Look at that.
This is what you'll see when you have your device on your dashboard, and you see if you look at it actually will put an 8-track inside there that has the current song and the artist. It will play 3 songs by that artist and then click and move on to a different artist.
Okay, that's funny.
And it also, for no particular reason, it gives you a trip odometer that simply shows you how much time you spent listening to music in this app.
I think that's good.
Yeah,
That's cool.
It's an 8-track for
it's
your
an
iPhone.
8-track.
People have been asking when the 8-track's coming back. Well, evidently today.
Every road trip needs the right music. Trip Mix gives you the ultimate road trip.
See, let's listen to.
You know what? By the way, I just want to point out this is the future of demoing iPad and iPhone apps. This is so awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Finally.
I set this. I set this up because I'm shooting some videos that hopefully, if I get around to editing them correctly, will be posted tomorrow.
I've got to run out and do this.
But already I've already like sort of understood that the biggest pain in the butt has always been in not only doing like online videos but everything. It's like going back in later on and having to cut in all the stuff I wanted to show. It's like no, I could just simply talk for my usual 3 hours, cut it down to 8 minutes, maybe insert a couple of photos and iMovie, but I'm actually there. But yeah, it is. I do feel a little bit like in Alberta, Canada today, tragedy struck on the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline as 4 workers were scalded by hot cotton. You have the images
right behind you, and it's called over-the-shoulder graphics in the broadcast news business, and it is a cool thing. So this is called Trip Mix, the ultimate road trip mix, available on the App Store for the iPhone. I'm going to get it.
$1.99. I've had it. I've actually I have a dash mount, and it has become kind of my default music player.
Yeah.
Because I'll listen if I'm not listening to an audiobook at the moment. If I've already listened to all my podcasts, I do have playlists, but even smart playlists, you kind of have to build them yourself. But just the idea of choose 3 songs, then move on to the new artist before I get sick of listening to Elton John or whoever I'm supposed to be trying to listen to.
So it's artist focused.
It'll center on artists. You can select anywhere between 1 and 10 songs before it'll move on. So, but it's just cool to look over and see an 8-track tape deck, and again a counter that does absolutely nothing but just simply show you how much time you spent listening to it.
And the
I would love it. I would love it if they actually changed that to a simple like just mile odometer or something just to make a little bit better use of that. But for $1.99, that's
I like the requirements. It says a decent taste in music and a destination.
They don't check though. I asked. They don't.
Let's check that taste in music, buddy boy.
Yeah, if you like the 8-track, you must have a good
Excuse
sense
me. I noticed 5 Foreigner albums and a greatest hits collection.
She says, cold as ice. All right. That's cool. That's cool. I'm going to have to get this. That looks really great. And Ihnatko is at the Chicago Sun-Times, and his own website is cwob.com. We'll look for that iPad 2 review any day now in the Sun-Times.
My poor editor, God have mercy on his soul.
And then the 800-page MacBook Pro review, and, well, there's more to come from the Ihnatko.
I'm industrious.
He is, if nothing else. He's industrious. Alex Lindsay is the Pixel Corps, pixelcorps.com, for that great guild of multimedia artists working and training together, and then bordersack.com, his own blog, and pixelcorps.tv for the podcasts, and I'm sure there are many other places.
We have a new studio coming.
We do?
Can't wait.
We do.
We're going to do a walkthrough sometime in the next week and a half. Like
you're ahead of us.
Yeah, well, we have a lot less to do.
Alex is sharing space in our new facility.
Leo's building the big shiny, really cool thing, and I'm building like the industrial. Here's a wall.
Your thing's got cooler. He's got a green screen and a mocap studio going in.
There's that
next door.
There's that.
It's nice though. It's all in the same space, so it's really kind of convivial.
Yes,
and we're thrilled to have you share the rent with us. Very nice. So thank you, Alex, and we'll look forward to a tour of this space.
Yeah.
So is the green screen painted?
No, not yet. We're going to do a little tour of like where it is right now, and I'm going to talk about what we're doing, and then we'll do a tour. We expect it to be fully operational the week after NAB.
That's great. We will be at NAB, the two of us, Pixel Corps and Twit, covering it, the biggest National Association of Broadcasters show that's coming up in April.
For us, NAB is really the biggest show of the year, so we're going crazy. There's going to be the Super Meet, which is, I think, on Wednesday night, and the Media Motion Ball, and we'll be at both of those with live views and streaming and wandering around. And then, of course, doing stuff at the Twit booth and then wandering around the floor.
So, April 11th through 14th.
Lots of fun.
We shall be there, too. Let's see. That's about it for this show. We thank you for being here, and encourage you to support. In fact, let me do it right now. I said I pledged I would support earthquake relief by supporting the Red Cross. So if it couldn't be easier on iTunes, it's right on the front page. You click the button. You get to choose how much you want to donate. You click donate. You enter your iTunes. Oops, I got to try again because I did it before. You enter your iTunes password. See that big red cross right there? You know when you're doing it this way that you're donating to the official Red Cross, and Apple does not keep any of this money. Of course, it goes directly to the Red Cross, and it couldn't be easier to support. And so in the name of Twit listeners everywhere, we're going to give $100 a day for the next few weeks at least until it's all getting back on its feet. Japan's getting back on its feet. So there you go. So I encourage you to do that as well. That's it for this edition of MacBreak Weekly. Break time's over. Now get back to work, my friends.
What are you doing over there?
What are you doing? Get back to work.
It's over.
Are you stealing toner?